All right, so our next speaker is Ryan Hoover from Product Hunt. How many of you are Product Hunt believers or fans? It won the Startup of the Year thing at the Crunchies or whatever it was, but I don't know, I just think it's super cool. And Ryan's got a pretty interesting vision and what he's doing with it. He did something with like Snoop Dogg's album yesterday. I don't know if you read that. Anyway, interviewing Ryan is Kia Kokolecheva. Wow, I got that right. You guys want to come down or up, or are you coming here? Hello? Where's everybody? Party's over here. Welcome, welcome. Kokolecheva. Ryan? Yes. All right, Ryan and Kia.
Oh my God. Hold on, let's one at a time. I'm gonna.
Is Ben still on the mic?
Maybe. Okay.
All right. I love you, Ben.
Startups, everybody.
Yeah. Chaos.
Well, thanks, Ryan, for being here.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Product Hunt.
Yeah.
How many of you are users? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Great. How many people have submission rights?
What number are you, Kia?
76.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, so let's jump into it. Something big happened this week. Snoop Dogg released an album on Product Hunt.
Yeah.
And he did an AMA. Did anybody catch that this week? Yes. Okay.
Couple people. All right.
Great. He has some interesting thoughts about startups and technology.
Yes. Yeah. Well, everyone knows who Snoop Dogg is, and he's just an interesting character for many different reasons. And so he launched his new app and his new album. I'm so used to saying apps and products, which is unusual for us. For those that don't know Product Hunt, it's really a community of people who share and upvote interesting products every day, usually technology products. And so Snoop Dogg's album is, of course, not necessarily in our core where we've been focusing historically. But Snoop himself is very much tied into technology. He's investing in startups. And so there is that thread. We've gotten to know him over the past year or so, him and his team. And we reached out and knew he was launching this product, his album. And we thought it'd be fun to do an AMA with Snoop.
Very cool. So are you planning on doing some more album launches?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of experimentation, and again, we've really focused on the startup community and technology, and Snoop's album is just one example of kind of moving on beyond that and experimenting with what do people like? Does it work? Does this model work with that type of community and that type of product? And so, of course, we have Snoop's album. We also launched our Games Digest. And who plays video games, whether it's on mobile, PC? I know a lot of you do. You're probably not raising your hand because you're embarrassed at Candy Crush and your high score there. But a lot of people play video games, not just gamers per se, but everyone plays video games. So that's something we're exploring. What does Product Hunt look like for games? Mm-hmm. And what other types of categories of products will work with our community and with this type of model?
So you guys are starting right now the games experiment. You're starting as a mailing list. Can you explain why? Yeah,
so we started off, and again, we haven't formally announced any expansion, exactly what we're going into, but we're experimenting with music, we're experimenting with books, with games and other categories. And we launched the Games Digest, which is a really simple way for you to just get a digest every single day of new, interesting games. And that's actually how Product Hunt started. In the very beginning, I can't remember, when did I email you about it? It was probably the first day when I started the list. It was an email list to begin with, and I invited Kia and some others, friends of mine, people that were investors or founders, and said if you find new products, new technology products, submit them to this list, and we'll get a digest every day. And that's how Product Hunt began almost a year and a half ago now. And so with games, we're experimenting with the same type of model. How can we start something small and not build an entire new community from scratch or a new site itself? How can we start with something simple? And we're starting with email.
Okay. So is kind of taking cues from your users and your community core to everything you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, at our core, really, we are a community. That's where Product Hunt is valuable. The technology itself is not super complicated, not today. And so it's really important that we build a strong community. And part of that is getting their feedback. So actually yesterday, we shared some mock-ups of some big redesigns that we've been doing with a subset of our community, about 300 or 400 people in the gaming industry, and get some of their input. And we had a mock-up, and they had annotations, and they added comments, and they added, oh, this doesn't look right, or what do you think about this? And we've done this several times in the past. And it's great for us because we can now get feedback from our community before we even build this product or this new redesign. And also, they feel invested and they feel more a part of the experience itself because they are shaping that product as we're building it. So that's just one of many things we do. We've done meetups across the world. A lot of people have done community meetups across the world as well. I think we've had well over 100, anywhere from Vancouver to Tokyo to Berlin, of course, San Francisco. I think we'll do one next month. We actually will definitely do one next month.
Okay, we're gonna hold you
So
to
come.
that. Anyone in the audience have a community-based product? Anyone?
Ready?
Oh, okay.
Actually, not very many. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
wow.
I think more people have a community-based or a community-influenced product than they think of. I mean, yeah, there's a community I feel is a bigger part of many products and many startups' success. And just look at Slack to an extent. So Slack is not a community product, but they have this ecosystem of developers and people making integrations and building on top of it, and even sub-communities built within Slack itself. And so I think increasingly so as we're becoming so connected in online 24/7, communities and the way people interact around your product or your community or your startup is more important than ever today.
Okay. So if you weren't building a community product per se, like you are, how would you approach like user feedback, I guess? Since you guys are such a community, you kind of can't ignore people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you had, what would you do?
Yeah, so for us, we have a lot of advantages in that I'm on Twitter literally command tabbing constantly. So I have this direct communication with the people that are in our community using our product who are also on Twitter. We, of course, have on product in itself, the comments themselves are a way for us to get feedback and engagement. For others that maybe don't have that direct connection, maybe it's a B2B company, there's, just going out and talking to people and asking your users, and the way you approach it is not a blanket blast email, like newsletter saying, hey, give us feedback. Like you're gonna get crickets usually. The way I typically approach it is, and I did this last week, I sent like 200 or 300 emails, each of them individual personalized emails. I would email individual people, and it would clearly be from me, it would clearly be tailored to them because it was relevant to them and it had some context that knew it was about them. And people respond to that. They respond when you demonstrated that you've taken time and effort to get their feedback. And so just doing that, it's pretty simple to email people. And it's a numbers game too, so if you really need a lot of feedback, just email 100 people and probably 10 will respond at least.
Okay. Now I want to ask you about one of my favorite topics, which is Product Hunt as a marketing platform. Anyone here have launched their product on Product Hunt? That's a lot of products. Or used it as marketing? No? No one? God. Well, a lot of people do that. So how do you feel about it? How do you deal with that? How do you see that fitting with Product Hunt's kind of integrity or like the community's integrity?
Yeah, well, so our ultimate goal is to build a product and a system that allows the community themselves to surface what's most interesting. And that's what we have today, a very simple system in which it's upvotes and we have things to detect voting rings and other things like that so that if we have someone with a bunch of bots come in and upvote something, that will actually not help. So that is our ultimate goal. In terms of how does Product Hunt fit within PR and marketing, it's certainly become part of the checklist of things you do when you launch for a lot of people. And that's a good thing for us. I mean, it's good that people see it as valuable enough to have some presence and have some success on. Of course, we don't want it to turn into a PR machine in which it's marketing speak, and that's exactly why we don't have brands or companies ever on Product Hunt commenting or posting. It has to be from a person. It has to be from the founder, the designer, the engineer, the person that built the product themselves. And then when they are in there, we really encourage, like if I'm talking to them through email or on Twitter, I just encourage them to talk like a human, like a person, rather than talking to their PR company and having them draft this like press release and going through all that. Like the way you launch products today is not like it used to be. Do you like getting press releases ever?
I don't know. They have numbers in them.
I mean, they
which
can
is
be
nice.
useful as a reference point, but you don't write something because you got a press release. Like, I think more and more so people want to connect in an honest way and direct way, and not just reporters, but like people want to connect directly to makers and the people that made these products, and that's exactly what we want to encourage. So, yeah, Product Hunt can become part of that process, but the way that we are trying to encourage that discussion, I think, doesn't feel like marketing. It doesn't feel like PR. At least that's my hope.
In terms of culture, I know Product Hunt has its own culture, and if you look at, Reddit, which has been around for a very long time, and they have their own way of approaching. Like today, they released anti-harassment updates, and as always, community members can express opinions about it, add comments, and everything. How do you guys approach culture and kind of these issues?
Yes, I think it's a really fascinating topic. So for us, we don't allow everyone in the world to comment on Product Hunt. So we have a big advantage right now in that we limit just how many people can come in. Part of the reason for that is in the very beginning, and even today, if that was true, we wouldn't have a team or a system in place to moderate all that stuff. There would be people that would just comment or post a comment about their product and cross-promote their own stuff, which does happen infrequently, but sometimes even today. So there's that piece of it. But really, that allows us to now slowly build this community of people. So in the very beginning, it's just a bunch of founders and investors and like people in the startup community, and so it has this like core base. And then we grew it out from there. They invited their friends, and their friends invited their friends, and now we have this momentum and this community and this culture in Product Hunt that it's like a ship. It's moving and it's getting bigger and bigger. And so as long as we keep that ship on the right track, then as we grow, it will be harder and harder to turn that and to have people that can be toxic ruin that culture, that community. And so we're building it out and adding more and more people so more and more people can contribute over time. And our hope is that, it's kind of like when you go to a party, you're not going to be that person, that guy or that gal, like kind of being a douchebag. I mean, you kind of conform to the people around you to an extent. So.
Okay. Okay, and then this is kind of a question just because I'm curious. What's it like working with Steven?
Steven. So Steven Sanofsky, who was at Microsoft for several years, he's now at Andreessen Horowitz. He's the board member that I work with, seeing him tomorrow actually. He's awesome in part because he complements my skills and where I lack and my lack of experience in leadership or management, frankly. Before Product Hunt, I was a product manager.
You're such a nice guy. How can you not manage?
No, yeah, it's different. Being a nice guy is not management. It's actually the exact opposite sometimes. So previously, I was a product manager by trade, and product managers, they never manage directly. It's always like you manage indirectly, which is a good and bad thing in terms of how it builds up your skills as a leader. But anyway, going back to Steven, he has, of course, managed thousands and thousands of people. He's grown a company and worked with a company that's massive, much bigger than Product Hunt. Biggest company I've worked at is like 100 people. So having his perspective is super helpful, and just having his experience as well. I ask him all kinds of questions from like fundraising stuff to how do I deal with this issue, to like product stuff, all over the board. So yeah, I like working with him. And also I got to mention, when I pitched at Andreessen Horowitz, there was like 25 people in the room, and Steven was like this. He was like on the edge of his seat, like kind of antsy, and I could tell he wanted to like keep speaking, keep asking questions. And it was because he was like one of the more excited, and he's also just like a really enthusiastic guy. But he was clearly excited about what we were doing, and he sees where we're going. Like he's a big photo camera geek. Like he loves photography, so he's excited for when we move into photography at some point in the future, that kind of stuff.
Is that your next community?
Not quite. Okay. My mom would love that. She loves photography, but not yet.
Okay. And so what was your favorite product this week? Because I know you see everything and you try everything. Yeah. This guy literally tries every app ever.
Yeah, I don't delete them too. I have, I think, 20 pages of apps on my phone. Let's see. So actually today was a really, Sunrise. Mm-hmm. So Sunrise is traditionally, it's a calendar app. I mean, it still is a calendar app. They just released a custom iOS keyboard. And the purpose of it is for you to schedule meetings really easily. So if Kia texts me, it's like, hey, you want to go out next weekend? Or you want to meet up for coffee next week? I can actually, within the keyboard itself, open this up, see my calendar, and then choose a date, and then like push you a date, like say, okay, I'm free this time. So it saves, like mobile calendar scheduling is such a pain in the ass because you have to close text message, like iMessage, you have to go to Sunrise, your calendar app, you have to look through, you have to choose a few dates, then text it back. It's a lot of friction. So it's just one of those like little small things in your life that can save you some time and potentially actually have you have more meetings because now you don't have this friction of trying to figure out your calendar. But I have to ask you the same question though.
Oh. Okay, well mine isn't from this week, but there was an app called Status, which didn't really work for me, but then they came out with this feature where you could text your friends that you're, partying.
Yes. Okay.
The app would allow you to like set up like your status, like, oh, I'm at the grocery store, like I'm at home, I'm at work, whatever, and your friends would know. And then when they came
And it
out
was
with
kind of, we were just chatting about this, it's kind of like the AIM, for my era back when I was in middle school, is at 3:30 p.m. you would go on AIM and chat with your friends, and everyone had status. You had like a status you would update, so it's like very reminiscent of that.
But yeah, like the partying feature I thought was great because you could like edit the message, and my friend and I would just send each other the most absurd text messages. So
I'm partying at the Safeway.
train or whatever. So that was my favorite product that I found on Product Hunt.
Perfect.
So anyone want to ask Ryan some questions in the audience? I think we have some time.
Any questions? I think
Come on, everybody.
there's a mic over here.
Ryan Hoover of Product Hunt. Oh, no.
Is that, oh.
You were managing a small, like keeping your community small while at the same time trying to do a venture-backed startup. So how do you talk about growth while managing not overgrowth? And like, how do you recommend that? I am actually doing a community-based company, one of the few, I guess, here. So I'm really interested in your thoughts. If you were to be doing it again, or when you aren't doing it again, what are best practices?
So there's a difference between the people that have access to comment and contribute than the people that are just consuming content. So with most social sites or most sites like Product Hunt, Reddit, Hack News, all these others, most people are just consuming. Very few people relative to how many people visit Product Hunt actually upvote or even want to comment or even care to comment. And that's fine because for those people, they just want to consume. They just want to see what new products are coming out, what can I find. They use search, they just consume. And so for us, we can still limit the contributions and the interactions between people while not sacrificing the overall growth top of the funnel, if that makes sense. Now, and then I'll also mention that if that's not a trade-off that you can make, then, I mean, it kind of depends on your timeline, I think. I would always err towards long-term, which is like a very maybe cliche thing to say, but just don't go for short-term gains. Like we could open up commenting for everyone, and people that do comment are definitely come back more. They're more engaged. We can open it up to everyone today, but we're not ready for that. And if we did, I think that would sacrifice our long-term success significantly.
Great. Anyone else?
Sure. So, you hear me? Okay. There you go. So I've actually got a community-based product as well, and I'm curious because you see so many products on a regular basis. What are the things that you have seen that differentiate those that go on to be successful, that your community loves and provides really good feedback? Is it really listening to those customers in that community, or are there other things or intangibles that you see that make things successful?
So things that are successful, and I'll maybe add like an asterisk of like things that are successful on Product Hunt are not necessarily successful businesses, which is obvious, but I have to just say that. So, I mean, generally it's, if it's relevant, first off. So like Product Hunt is not for everyone today. So if it's something that is like, I don't know, I'm not gonna choose an example, but if it's totally unrelevant to the community, then it probably won't do that well. But let's say it's relevant. What does do well is just really clear communication and describing the product. So the tagline itself should be really clear. It shouldn't be too clever. It shouldn't be like something for steroids. Please don't call your product ever something for steroids, like Gmail on steroids, because it's just cliche. And it should communicate what it does, like the value it provides, even in that short, like 60-character tagline. Then, of course, like the landing page should also be clear. Those are like the very obvious things that do well. And then in terms of the other things, it's if you are posting or launching on Product Hunt, you should speak like a human, have a really short comment, add some context, make it welcoming. People see through when it's like some sort of marketing copy that's been like manicured like crazy. And they don't really respond to that nearly as well.
Any?
Ryan, one last question.
Oh, all right, make it quick.
Do you solution at some point where you kind of rate mobile apps and become the first resource where people would come and find mobile apps? Are you going to solve the mobile app discovery problem?
Yeah, I mean, mobile is a platform, and there are many other platforms that will emerge. I mean, Apple Watch is an interesting platform that's emerging now. There's VR, there's tons of others. So for us, it's not necessarily, we're not focusing on individual platforms. Now the content is today more for web, because we focus on the web in the beginning, but mobile discovery, app discovery, curation, conversation around that is certainly on our path. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Ryan.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you, guys.